All right, it's 8:30 on a Wednesday night. Or no, it's not a Wednesday night. It's a Tuesday night because we're doing this one day early because we're unavailable tomorrow night. So here we are on a Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m. for this week's live Panther-Lair Show. And we actually started right at 8:30. Maybe there's something about Tuesdays versus Wednesdays that we actually start on time. But we're here. It's a live Panther-Lair Show on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Excited to do this thing on Tuesday night. Had to switch it around, do just some scheduling things. We do that every now and then. But like we say, if you're like, what the heck? How did it change? What's going on? The way to make sure you don't miss any of our live streams or Pitt video content or anything like that is to subscribe to youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. I forgot to check my microphone. Yep, it looks like we've got the right one plugged in. Hooray. youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. It's a place for all of our Pitt video content, our daily morning Pitt videos Monday through Friday, our weekly live show that we do here every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. or sometimes on Tuesday nights at 8:30 p.m. We have press conferences and post-game shows and interviews and all kinds of things right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. So make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss any of it. We think Jim will be joining us in a little bit. When he does, we will welcome him in. But obviously, we have a lot of recruiting to talk about tonight after Pitt got not one, not two, not three. I'm not going to go all the way through it, but 10 commitments over the weekend. 10 of the official visitors committed to Pitt. Crazy enough. But it was a big official visit weekend, a big recruiting weekend. We expected it to be. We thought they would get a lot of commitments. I don't know if we thought they would get double digits. I'll have to ask Jim what he thought. Maybe he saw it coming. I think somebody in the mailbag on Friday asked me for how many commitments I thought they would get. And I think I said something like 6 to 8, maybe, maybe 9, somewhere around there. I thought it would be in that range, more than 5, but I thought probably less than 10 just because 10's a lot. Well, sure enough, they went out and got 10 commitments. So 22 recruits visited, 5 were already committed before the weekend started, 10 more committed over the weekend. That's pretty good. When you triple the size of your recruiting class in one weekend, I'd say you did pretty well. Well, obviously, we have a lot to talk about on that front. But if you want to make sure you get all the recruiting info, the place to go is Panther-Lair.com. Panther-Lair.com. It's Pitt site on the 247 Sports Network. That's where we have all the recruiting coverage and the official visit coverage and the recruits and the commitments and all those things. Panther-Lair.com. If you check that out, you will not miss anything. Panther-Lair.com. Let's bring Jim in now to talk about the official visit weekend. Jim, somebody asked me in the mailbag on Friday, how many commitments do you think they'll get? And I think I said 6 to 8. I thought it would be more than 5, probably less than 10 because 10's a lot. Did you think they would hit double digits this weekend?
I did not. I think we had this conversation about 1 week ago at this time, and I think 6 to 8. I think you might have given me an over-under of 7.5 or something like that. So I don't know. I think that's kind of the range we were sitting in. And but at the same time, looking at those 10 commitments, nobody seemed like that surprising. And I think as the weekend was going on, as we were trying to figure out all the pat signals, and I kept giving updates on the board, and I said, look, everyone here is on the table. There is not one guy that visited last weekend, where there was no chance. And sometimes in the past, you've seen that. I think, the past couple of years, they bring in a big 4-star, and he has visits to Michigan and Miami after Pitt, and you're thinking, well, yeah, that's not going to happen. There wasn't any of that this year. All 17 uncommitted guys there were candidates, which is kind of what you want. And, obviously by the numbers, it worked out.
Is there a guy who committed out of the 10? I mean, 10's a lot, but is there any, who would you say was the most surprising to you? Is there a guy that stands out as being the most surprising?
I wasn't sure if they would land Damon Ferguson on the spot. I think that was the one, just because he had a Michigan State visit after that. And I thought he might take that and decide between Pitt and Michigan State. And I think he went to Minnesota and Indiana too. But I kind of thought it was okay, this is going to be a Pitt-Michigan State battle. And obviously they did enough work, over the weekend to just kind of get that done. So I thought that was a good pull for them. I think he's a composite 4-star, probably one of the more exciting players in the class. So I'm not surprised he committed. I'm more surprised he committed on the spot. I just wasn't sure they would get that one done.
Yeah, I mean, he was saying even Sunday morning, he still had visits to Virginia and Michigan State. So, I mean, he had multiple official visits scheduled, presumably, he was at least still saying that. I think he had probably already committed at that point. So I forget, did he officially shut down the other visits? Have you seen anything from Ferguson?
I just assume that he did. I mean, I think pretty much at this point, like I haven't, of all the guys I talked to this weekend, like everyone that did commit or was committed, they said like it's shut down. Like we're not doing any other visits. So I kind of assume like that's where it is. I'd be surprised if he goes to Michigan State this weekend. I guess we should double check on that, but I think he is shutting it down.
Yeah, he looking at his commitment tweet, he just said, through tough evaluation, consideration, and input from my parents and prayer, I've decided to commit to Pitt football. I guess it was I think it was Jaden Dunar had the tweet that was like, I've given it a lot of thought, and I'm not gonna, I'm shutting down my recruitment. So he actually used those words. I mean, like we all know, commitments are commitments. They're verbal pledges. All of this is subject to change. I don't know if it's going to change, but it's all subject to change. But yeah, I thought Ferguson also was, for me, one of the guys who I was like, boy, that would be a pretty big get if they could pull him in. I don't know if he's the best overall prospect that visited, but he was a guy I also circled. And I mean, his stats are ridiculous, Jim. He averaged like 12.8 yards per carry. Like, am I missing something there? Yeah, like according to, I think it was Max Preps, had him with like 100 and some carries and like almost 13 yards per carry. I mean, that's pretty ridiculous production. Is that the same numbers you've seen?
Yeah, he puts up big numbers. He's just explosive. You watch the tape, and he's, I mean, not a big back, but like I think we talked about this before. He's a big back for Pitt. Like being that he's like 5'10", 190, like he's bigger than some of the guys they brought in last year. So I think he's durable, and I think he's going to come in with the thought of, Pitt has one more year of Desmond Reed, and there's going to be an open competition, and I think he's going to have a good chance. I think some of these true freshmen this year, Joel's Goff, it's going to be a pretty interesting competition, but I think they're stacking it up pretty well.
Yeah, that would be one upside to, they didn't bring in a like sophomore transfer or junior transfer or something like that. One upside is that, well, you should be able to recruit pretty well on the potential of an open opportunity there, unless, Sinquan Smith and Jalen Brown and Jakarian Turner just are amazing studs this year. I mean, there should be plenty of opportunity for a young running back, a freshman running back to come in and contribute. And it seems like Ferguson bought into that. Do you feel like they need another one? They had Christian Lawrence, the other running back, visit this weekend. Do you feel like they need a second back in this class after taking 3 last year?
I don't know if they need it. I mean, but I don't know if they'd also tell Christian Lawrence no, because he's also explosive. He put up the same type of numbers playing Georgia high school football. So I think, if Christian Lawrence comes back and wants to commit, it would be tough for me to see the Pitt staff saying, sorry, we're not going to take another speedy playmaker, because they love having them. So I don't know, and we'll see this weekend. We're still trying to set the visit list, so we don't really have confirmed visits. I mean, I think there were other running backs on the board, so I don't know. I mean, it kind of zeroed in on Damon Ferguson. I think he was the top guy they wanted, and kudos to them because they made it happen.
Yeah, I think. Last we had heard Sir Paul Cheeks, who, as you said, is one of the better names on the recruiting board, was slated to visit this weekend. I never got the sense. I felt like Ferguson and Lawrence, not just because they visited earlier, but I felt like Ferguson and Lawrence were higher on Pitt's board than Sir Paul Cheeks, who visited in the spring also. I feel like they like him and he's a priority, but I sort of get the sense he's maybe that second level down. You get that sense too?
Yeah. I mean, not everyone that visited on the first weekend is like their top priority. Like there's still going to be good players this weekend. There'll still be a couple good players next weekend. But for the most part, that was the top of their board, the way I viewed it. I mean, I think not only was everyone a candidate there that could commit, I think they were all guys like the staff was hoping would commit. So, I mean, I think that was the top of their board. And I mean, just because they didn't commit this weekend, and we kind of talk about that, we wrote about it, it's like some of those guys are still possibilities at the end of the month. A lot of guys like to do, I am committing on July 1st, and I'm going to do a little ceremony. I'm going to do a tweet, and I'm going to take all my visits. So, like, there are guys like that could come back around from that first weekend. So, I think it was 7 guys that did not commit this weekend, but I would say they are still in the running for most, if not all of them.
We'll get into those guys in a second. There's even a question about that, but I do want to kind of run through some of the commitments as well. I think probably one of the bigger storylines, I mean, I did a whole morning pit about it today, is getting 3 guys from the Whippeal. They had 4 Whippeal recruits visit. What would your, I don't know if we had a prediction on this going into the weekend. Would you have said you expect them to get 3 Whippeal guys out of the 4?
I think so. And I think you asked me, and it was one of those things where we both knew John Curran was visiting, but it wasn't public knowledge yet.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So you're like, of the guys we know are visiting, would you put the over under at 1.5? So I don't know. I thought they did pretty well. Because 2 weeks ago at this time, I would have guessed Reston Lehman was not coming to Pitt.
Yeah.
So I think they closed pretty well there. And again, great job. I mean, I think if Damon Ferguson was the most exciting player they landed on offense, then I think you could argue that Lehman's probably the top player they landed defensively this weekend. Lincoln Hoke, he's a guy that's been around for a while. He didn't really, I think West Virginia was his only other Power 5 offer. So it was kind of like, okay. And then obviously Curran, he had that great, is it Curran?
I've been saying Curran. It might be Curran. We need is there anybody from Pine and Richland in the chat right now telling us we mispronounce that? John Kristofich is always in the chat telling me I mispronounce Andrew Kristofich. And he probably would know since he seems to have the last name. And I think Andrew Kristofich was a Pine and Richland guy, right? So maybe
lineman, I believe.
Yeah. So maybe John Kristofich can jump in here. We're shouting out a longtime listener. John's always in here, but he usually says hello when he jumps in, so we haven't seen him yet. Maybe he's not available on Tuesday nights. But anyway, I've been saying Curran. It could be Curran. We could ask him, but that would be investigative reporting. So I don't know. You interviewed him. I take it you didn't ask him how to pronounce his last name?
I didn't. We just kind of did the usual 4 to 5 minute talk. And but whenever he got the offer, or when he had the good camp last week and we suspected he had an offer, it kind of felt like a matter of time. There's been a couple of those instances lately where they've taken a lineman from the Whippeal and it's like their only Power 4 offer, but they offered them knowing they're going to commit to Pitt. I think Ty Uhas kind of fit that category. I think Shep Turk fit that category, and obviously this weekend as well. So there are just certain times you kind of know it's like, all right, if they're going to pull the trigger on the offer, the kid's going to commit. And like, it was kind of only a matter of time, but nonetheless, I think he's a good player. I mean, he had not that they were Power 5 offers, but he had 24 offers, a lot of Ivy Leagues. He was a good high school player. He's a dude that lives in the weight room. He's really strong. He kind of fits in as a guard because some of the other guys they've been recruiting lately are tackles. So you need interior guys too. You might as well get one that's as strong as an ox and right in your backyard.
Well, and you talk about guys who, particularly local guys you offer kind of knowing they're going to commit. I would also add Braylon Lovelace to that list. He's been really good. I would add Cruz Brookins to that list. He's been really good. And I would add Julian Duggar to that list. And I think he's got a lot of potential there. So, it's kind of one of those things sometimes we're oh, well, yeah, Pitt got him because that was the only offer. Well, maybe, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's a bad prospect. Braylon Lovelace could play at a lot of schools. I think Cruz Brookins could play at a lot of schools. I think Julian Duggar is going to show that he could potentially play at a lot of schools. And so it's one of those yeah, you're right. That was, John Curran's only Power 4 offer, but that doesn't necessarily, automatically mean he's not a good prospect. Now, it's interesting. You said you felt like Reston Lehman, might be the top guy on defense. I tell you who I like on defense the most from these commitments, and maybe right there near the top of the class, is Isaiah Simmons, the linebacker from Virginia. I think this is a steal. I think this is a guy they're going to have to fight to hold on to. I think it's a guy we have underrated. He's a guy who's been an all-state performer all 3 years of his high school career. I mean, he's 3 years in high school, and he's been an all-state selection 3 times. He had 20 tackles for loss and 10 sacks last year. He plays on a loaded team, and his team has had a lot of success. But, I mean, he's been the leading tackler for that team every year. I think Isaiah Simmons, he's a little undersized, and our guy Brian Doan, who covers does a lot of regional recruiting for 247, pointed this out that he's probably undersized. That's why his recruitment isn't bigger than it has been, but that's not a problem. As we've talked about many times in this defense, that's not an issue of being undersized. Kyle Lewis was undersized. Servassier Dennis was undersized. You can make a case of Rasheem Biles is almost sort of borderline undersized, or Braylon Love. There have been plenty of undersized guys who have excelled in this defense. And I mean, I think Simmons is just going to be a stud. And I think you put him with Marcus Jennings, who's already committed. Like, I really like this linebacker class, and again, another really good linebacker class coming together for Pitt. We'll see about last year's guys. I think there's more projection sort of happening there. But when you look at, Cam Lindsey and Jeremiah Marcelin 2 years ago, and Jordan Bass and Braylon Lovelace and Rasheem Biles the year before that, and Kyle Lewis the year before that, and now these two guys, Isaiah Simmons and Marcus Jennings. I mean, it's becoming year after year, just like it's been with, safety, probably the other position that they've recruited that well just year after year. I mean, you're talking about 2022, 23, 24, and 26 at least. And I don't mean to disparage the guys from last year. I just feel like, Emmanuel Taylor, right? He's one of the linebackers. He was like a receiver in high school. And so you're kind of projecting there. I think Justin Thompson looks good, but we'll see. But at the very least, 4 out of 5 years where I think you're getting really good linebacker prospects. And I think Simmons is going to be, he's going to be a stud. I think he might be one of my favorite guys in this class, and probably my favorite guy on defense in this class.
Yeah, I feel like we've both written about linebackers a lot lately, and they're the topic. Why wouldn't they be? It's the best position group on the team. They have the best player on the team, all that. So, but we've said, everything's just clicking right now. From development to, identifying talent to on-field performance to guys probably going to go be successful in the NFL. Whatever is working right now, it's working really well. So yeah, I look at a guy like Simmons and he might be small now, but so is Rasheem Biles. But have you seen him lately? He's huge. It does not take that much to get a 200-pound high school kid to 220 pounds in college. It's not that crazy. It's been done before. It's going to happen again. And whenever he, probably has one redshirt season, he'll be up there, contending for playing time. And it wouldn't surprise anyone. He's a good athlete. He's productive on the high school field. I think his team wins the state championship in Virginia, every year. He's just he's a guy that's coming from winning, and he fits exactly how Pitt likes their outside linebackers to look.
And actually, looking at 247's rankings, he's one of the highest rated guys in Pitt's recruiting class right now. They rank on a 100 scale, which makes sense. And he's an 89. He's one of 3 guys in the class who are 89s. He's the number 25 linebacker prospect in the country. He's the number 11 prospect in the state of Virginia. So, I mean, I arguably, depending on how you slice it, he's the top rated recruit in Pitt's recruiting class so far. I still think we're a little bit underrating him, but he's got, he's got as high of a rating as anybody else. The other 2 guys who have that 89 rating out of 100, one is Jaden Dunar. And Jim, this is a 6'5" wide receiver going to Pitt. Are the numbers mixed up there? I know we can watch his film and see that he's 6'5" and not 5'6", but I mean, Pitt recruiting a 6'5" wide receiver? How's this going to work?
Yeah, it's interesting. And he's a big time playmaker. I think, we talked about it last week. He had 27 catches and 9 of them went for touchdowns. So he is a big red zone target. And that's just nothing on the roster right now. They don't have that. So I know it was made, somewhat of a deal is because Georgia was kind of recruiting him. He was going to take an official visit there this weekend. Obviously, Georgia recruits in a different space than Pitt. They probably are doing just fine and got other 6'5" receivers who are really good. But the fact that Georgia, one of the top 2 or 3 programs in college football right now, at least thought enough of him that's okay, we could take him in our class. So I think that says a lot. And I think you mentioned he did say, I shut everything down. I'm going to stick with Pitt, and that's cool. The only thing with him is I don't think he's talked to either one of us. So we don't we get to know these guys a little bit. We've been texting and talking to them all weekend, but not him. Uh-oh. Is it me or Chris?
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
Was it me or you? I can hear you now. It was
probably me. It looks like my internet got a little bit dicey there. So I apologize to everyone. The last thing I heard you say, Jim, was we get to know these guys a little bit. But I guess you were going to say we don't have a great feel for Jaden Dunar just yet.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's you text these guys back and forth. You do a couple interviews. You get to know them a little bit. But I don't think we've talked to him at all.
Gotcha. Yeah, they're saying that I froze, not you. So You were fine. Georgia has a 6'4" wide receiver committed. That's the most, and he is rated. Whereas Jaden Dunar is an 89. Georgia's 6'4" wide receiver commit is rated in 88. So, and he's actually in the state of Georgia as well. So Pitt's top tall wide receiver commit, because Georgia also has a what do they have, a 5'11" guy, Vance Spafford from California. He's a 92, and he's a top 130 guy. So he's a little bit higher rated. But as far as tall wide receivers, Pitt has the more highly rated guy. The other one who's rated 89 is Nick Howard, the offensive lineman from Pearland. How are you pronouncing that one, Jim? Pear, pear, like the fruit?
I didn't know if, like, for some reason in my head, I was thinking like Pearland.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
I'm down with it. I go for it.
See, that's the thing with them recruiting Texas is like, we don't know these schools.
No.
At all.
No. So we'll have to just guess on that. But anyway, he's from Texas, which, by the way, Pitt now has 3 recruits from Texas in the class of 2026. That's weird. But we've also seen them recruiting down there a lot, right? I mean, are you giving Jacob Bernowski credit for most of this, for, Texas success with, because they have Nick Howard, they have the quarterback Angelo Renda, and then they got the tight end Wyatt. I'm saying Villarreal. Is that what you're going with on Wyatt?
Yeah, that's
Villarreal. Right. Okay. Jacob Bernowski, is that who we're giving them the majority of the credit to here?
I would say, because I think I talked to Angelo Renda the other day, and he, I asked him, like, how was it hanging out with Coach Bell? And he's like, oh yeah, I have a great relationship. He's like, also Coach Bernowski, because he's the Texas recruiter. And I think all 3 of those guys, I think I talked to them, and they all kind of, gave him a shout out, even though he's not the position coach for Howard or Renda. But I think he's from Texas, so I think he felt comfortable going into those high schools and recruiting. Obviously, Cade Bell, he's just a fast talker, and he will go into any high school in the country and start recruiting. So I think there's just been a little more of an effort there. Brady Bates actually recruits down to Texas here and there. So, like, there's just been more of a concentrated effort to go down there. And I mean, I think last year they tried, and I think they signed 1. Yeah, Jordan Fields. And before that, I mean, we're talking Chud Nobuko, Nate Yarnell, and Eric Hallett is like their most 3 recent Texas players before that. So, like, it's very unique that there's 3, and there was probably 3 over a 7-year stretch before them.
You have you seen the big hat in some of the photos from the official? I'm trying to find somebody. Do you remember somebody who mentioned it? Or somebody you saw wearing it in one of their photos? Oh, here, I think I have one. I'll try and share it. Let's see if I can share the screen, because there's an anecdote. Let's see, share screen, media posts. There. So Javvante Williams, he's wearing the big hat, and then he's in a photo with someone wearing the big hat. Oh, it's Jacob Bernowski. So actually, that's fitting. So you see Jacob Bernowski wearing the big hat. Mike Vanderroord told me a story, the offensive lineman from Cleveland who committed over the weekend. He committed on like Friday night. And Mike Vanderroord told me that at one point they were having dinner together, and they were showing highlights of all the recruits, that they had made like a highlight reel of all the recruits who were visiting that weekend. And he was like, yeah, there was an MC, and he was really hyping everybody up. I'm like, oh, who was the MC? Who's doing it? And it was Jacob Bernowski. And he said Bernowski was doing all of this hyping of the recruits wearing this big hat right here. Which, like, I'm going to be honest, like, Bernowski, even when he has like a normal hat, he usually has like a flat brim. And so it kind of looks like that all the time. But yeah, it's like, that's a big hat. And I'm picturing like watching huddle film with Jacob Bernowski on the mic, hyping these guys up wearing this big hat, which, like, I don't know. It's really amusing to me. Do you find that as amusing as I do, Jim?
I do. And I didn't, maybe it's getting old, but like, I didn't see the significance of the big hat. Like, I don't know why I would want that in a photo shoot. I mean, I
still don't know like why. I don't understand it. I don't know the point.
I don't either, but, they all had photo shoots, and the big hat made it into almost everyone's.
I'm going to be in the South Side on Sunday for their prospect camp. I'm going to try and do some digging and find out about the big hat, what we can learn about the big hat, who has the big hat. Maybe just Bronowski has the big hat and he lets some of the
maybe he just wears it normally.
He might be wearing it all the time. Like I say, if I could find a photo of him right now, like you'd see that like him wearing a normal hat doesn't look that different from that big hat. The other thing, Mike Vanderwer, the offensive lineman who committed, told me, the other thing he told me was, it was interesting. And one of the recruits might have told you this too. It might've been that same dinner when they were showing the highlight film. And at some point somebody was on the mic and they're like, all right, everybody who wants to commit, come up here and do it right now. And like 6 guys got up. And I think that's part of why we saw those like, quick strings of tweets. Although I don't think that was at night, right? Like, were some of those Friday night?
But like they started early Friday. Like they started I think there was like 1 or 2 like Friday afternoon, and it was just kind of a slow trickle throughout the weekend.
And then a bunch like Saturday. Like a handful on Saturday. But it just struck me that like, peer pressure, it's a bad thing and all that kind of thing. But it's not the worst if you can get guys to get sort of caught up in the moment. You know what I mean? That like everybody's getting up and committing. I'm going to get up and commit too. I'm having such a great time. It's like, we'll see if the commits stick and all of that. But I kind of like it as a technique. I mean, one of the big things, Jim, on these visits, is like creating the bonds between the recruits and the players on the roster, but between the recruits and each other. And like, oh, all my friends that I made this weekend, they're all going to Pitt. I'm going to go too. And oh, here we are. We're all doing it together. Like as a tactic. And I feel like they've done stuff like this before. You told me that Rasheem Biles broke the news of Isaiah Simmons committing, right? Was it in that kind of setting?
Yeah, it was like, it seemed like he had a microphone. Like there was a bunch of guys sitting around. They might have been at the stadium. Like I think they do.
Okay.
I think they do dinner in like one of the clubs. And so he was just up there, and he had, for whatever reason, Rasheem Biles decided to put that on his story. So that's not the first time like a Pitt player has like spilled the beans. Like I feel like that has happened before, where we just kind of like, we know they committed. The player, I want to say it was PJ O'Brien, because of course it was PJ O'Brien
who put it on social media.
Yeah, it might have been like when Jesse Anderson committed or something.
It was like
that.
him, or like for some reason I feel like Jordan Bailey getting up on a microphone and like announcing that running back, who committed a few years ago. But yeah, it might have been PJ. You might be right.
But yeah, and so it did. I did talk to some of them, and it was like, like we all went up and kind of committed together. So you kind of want the tidal wave effect. You kind of want like once one domino falls, a couple of them fall, and like by design, that's why the coaches do this. That's why they bring in 22 visitors. It's because they want a good chunk of them to commit. But I do think there's some real bonds being made there. I don't think it's peer pressure. I mean, obviously decommitments happen, but I don't think anyone's ever rushed into those decisions. I don't think anyone's like, making them in haste. Like it's, they want to be there, and it's, they get caught up in the moment, and for the most part, they stick it out.
Yeah, I was, the whole thing with decommitments, I was thinking about it. So I was trying to like track, I wanted to compare where this weekend's official visit kind of stacked up in terms of total commitments produced. And it pretty much tied that big weekend, the very first June official visit weekend back in June of 2018. They got 10 commitments that weekend. And so I kind of went through all the different official visit weekends, particularly those in June. But I just wanted to compare, like, what were the biggest ones? What were the smallest ones? Well, I mean, this was, this weekend here tied that big weekend at the beginning and back in 2018. But I also kind of wrote down the decommitments, because that's part of it too, right? Like in June 2018, they got 10 commitments. 2 of those guys, Kadri Jackson and Brandon Mack, decommitted. There have been decommitments from these June official visits. That's true, but I don't think it's as many as people think. Like, I mean, if I read off the list, like it sounds like it's a lot, but like Kadri Jackson and Brandon Mack that year, T. Denson and Henry Parrish. And do you remember Timothy Brown, the defensive tackle? Do you remember that one?
He got in trouble or something.
He got in trouble like the fall of his senior year, like big trouble. And I don't think he ever ended up playing. He might have ended up at a JUCO or a community college a couple years later.
Yeah.
Like 2 years later, class of 22, they lost Jacavian Nonar. You remember him, the offensive lineman who went to Maryland? And then Camden Brown, the 4-star wide receiver who flipped to Auburn kind of late in the process. The next year, they lost Shelton Lewis, which is a big loss. He went to Clemson. He's been awesome. I feel like he might have gone into the portal, or maybe he's still at Clemson. I forget. But Bryce Pollock was another one. Phillip Daniels, the offensive lineman who went to Minnesota. And now I think he has transferred to Ohio State, I want to say.
That sounds right.
Colin Van Roy. Do you remember him? 2023 class. I think he was committed.
That might have been one of those like Pitt kind of initiated it, and sometimes that happens too.
Yeah, exactly. I think there are a couple of those. Chasen Johnson flipped to UCF. Yassine Willis flipped to Syracuse. I don't think he did it. Did he even play against Pitt last year? Do you remember as a freshman?
I don't remember. Well, because I don't remember because every time they were on offense, Kyle McCord threw an interception.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Maybe he should have been handing off to Yassine Willis a little bit more. Last year, Demarion Folks. I think he's the guy who flipped to like Missouri, right?
Missouri, like late, like it was like right before signing day.
Yeah, he was, and that's probably why they went out and got who was the last receiver they added? Cameron Sapp.
Yes.
Right. And then Elijah Dotson, who was pretty good. He was a safety, right?
Safety, Michigan.
Went to Michigan.
Kid. Yeah.
Yep. And then Khalil Sterling was a guy who I forget where he ended up, but I think that was one where Pitt kind of walked away. He might have gone to like Bethune-Cookman or someplace like that.
Western Carolina.
He's Western Carolina. That's right. He was the player to be named later. That's right. So, I mean, like that's a decent number of names. We're also going over the course of like 7 recruiting classes or 6 recruiting classes. So maybe you lose 1 or 2 June commitments every year. That like, that's part of why you take so many guys, right? Like when we were talking about the running backs, we were talking about Christian Lawrence, like, yeah, take him because who knows? Maybe you lose one of those running backs, either, Lawrence or Damon Ferguson. You've still got one really good back in the class. So I think it's built in that you're probably going to have 1 or 2 guys go. So take a bunch, you know what I mean? Get the volume, get a lot of guys, and then you kind of have some insurance against it. Brock wanted to know, out of the 7 uncommitted guys who visited over the weekend, who do you think Pitt still has the best shot at landing? I know, Jim, you said you feel like they're in good shape with kind of all of them. Anybody stand out as most likely options here? I mean, just running down the list real quick for people. Javvante Williams is a tight end. Wait, is he a tight end? Yeah, yes. He's a tight end. Jafar Jean Noel, former West Virginia commit. He's a wide receiver. Logan Nagel's a defensive lineman from New Jersey. Xavier Jackson is a cornerback from New Jersey. Christian Lawrence, the running back we talked about. And then Colson Gatton, the linebacker from Central Catholic. Larry Miles, the wide receiver from Florida. That's the 7. What do you think? Anybody jump out to you there, Jim, that, they're probably going to get him?
I think Colson Gatton's, there's a good chance there. And people have wondered about his recruitment throughout, like, is Pitt really a serious player? And I think he really is genuinely interested in Pitt. I think the other Whippeal guys are working on him. I think he's supposed to go to West Virginia this weekend. And next weekend, he told me, he's like, I'm either going to go to Duke or Indiana. I haven't decided yet. So, I mean, Pitt has to survive 2 more weekends, but I think they put their best foot forward with him. And I think just the fact that the other Whippeal guys committed and they're kind of pushing for him, we'll see what happens there. I wonder about the 2 wide receivers because they already have 3. I think they have another one for sure visiting this weekend, Brian Hamilton. We're still working to confirm the other one. So, like, I just wonder if they're getting low on numbers at wide receivers. I don't know about either of those guys. I think they would take Javvante Williams. I think they probably should take 2 tight ends in this class just because of the current numbers on the roster. He's another one. I think he visited Maryland already. He's going to go to Indiana. I think he has 1 other visit. So hard to say there, but Gatton's kind of the one I think he's probably the one they want the most. I think he's probably the one they did the best with. It just comes down to a matter of, can they survive 2 more official visits? And sometimes that's hard, but sometimes it can happen.
That would be gigantic. Yeah, I mean, I think he's really good. Not, I don't think it'd be gigantic because they're getting an All-American or something like that. I think he's really good, but it would just be huge to bring 4 Whippeal guys to campus, none of them committed when they arrive for their official visits, and to land all 4. I think it's already pretty big to get 3 out of the 4. If you could get 4 for 4, you're not going to get everybody in the Whippeal, but that's pretty good. I mean, that would be really impressive. And we were talking about the linebacker class with Isaiah Simmons and Marcus Jennings. You add Colson Gatton to that group. I mean, like, linebacker becomes not only the strongest position on the roster, but like their biggest recruiting strength at this point, I think, right?
Yeah. I mean, he would just be big on multiple levels. And I mean, his offer sheet's crazy. And, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and I was asked, when's the last time they got like a Central Catholic kid? I was like, well, I'm guessing you don't mean Ty Uhas because, but it's been a while. It's been a while since they landed like a big time, and you can kind of think back through the names. And between right now and Damar Hamlin, there hasn't been a lot of Central Catholic kids at Pitt, which is unique, but they've just kind of been looking elsewhere. So it'd be big. And like you said, not because like he's going to come in and be a starter middle linebacker as a freshman, just to kind of take back the WPIAL a little bit and just start winning some battles. I mean, they just need to do it. And, everyone always talks about Ohio State and Penn State because they're right there, but like other schools are coming in and like invading Pitt's territory. It's like you could stomach a loss to Penn State, but like it's annoying whenever like somebody like North Carolina just comes up to Pittsburgh out of nowhere. And I think that's kind of what they need to stop. I mean, you're always going to have to deal with Penn State, Notre Dame, Michigan, Ohio State, like the big schools, but like you don't want to lose these battles to ACC schools.
2016 recruiting class in Narduzzi's first full class, Damar Hamlin, Bryson Garner, and Rashad Wheeler. So they got 3 that year. Since then, they've gotten 3 total. They got David Green in the 2018 class, Elliot Donald in the 2021 class, which will probably be the last like big one that they've gotten, and then Ty Uhas, like you mentioned. So 6 guys total for Pat Narduzzi recruiting Central Catholic since he got to Pitt over the course of 10 years, and 3 of those 6 were in the first year. So not exactly a real strong track record there. Let's we'll just roll through all the questions here just to get through everything. Pitt Win says, according to the Locked On ACC podcast, I guess, Pitt's 7-game streak stopped because everyone figured out how to stop Cade Bell's offense and he didn't make adjustments. They're going to have a problem with the offense this year. I think there's some truth to that. I think the 7-game winning streak didn't stop because I think defenses figured out the offense a little bit going back as far as the Cal game, and they still won that. So, it wasn't entirely just that. I think the injuries were a bigger factor. The injury to Branson Taylor, the injury to Eli Holstein were a bigger factor. But I do think there's something to be said for defenses figuring out the offense a little bit, for the offense not adjusting and coming up with a new sort of approach. I mean, and some of that was Eli Holstein. I don't think Eli Holstein did well against odd man fronts. He didn't do well against Cincinnati for most of the game. He didn't do well against Cal. He struggled with those kinds of defenses, and I don't think Cade Bell gave him a great shot. So, I mean, I think we've talked about it before, certainly during the season and since the season, that there was a learning curve for Cade Bell. Cade Bell needed to come out of last season with some lessons that he learned, and I think Eli Holstein did too. But I don't know. What's your injuries aside, what's your concern level with the offense going into year 2 with Cade Bell, Jim?
I mean, I think there's some concern. But yeah, it just seemed like when things started to go south, it was injuries. It was a freshman quarterback hitting a wall. It was some, some teams kind of like watched film a little bit more and saw what was going on. But like all those things played off of each other. So, I mean, I think Cade Bell's a good coach. I think he is a bright offensive mind. I think he's going to bounce back, and I think they're going to be better this year offensively, and at least more consistent. I think there's not going to be those games where there's just such lows like that SMU game or even that Virginia game. Like they just weren't doing anything. So he needs to adjust to what's happening, but I think part of it's just going to be like having an older quarterback, having more depth on the offensive line, having more of his skill position guys around. So I'm interested to see how it works. I don't know, like if it's entirely ACC coaches just started figuring it out, but like I still think it was just like, okay, it was a freshman quarterback and the schedule picked up and like he ran into SMU and Clemson, and that's kind of what happened.
Josh Newark agrees about the injuries, says, I think losing 3 starting offensive linemen in 2 weeks contributed to the losing streak more than Cade Bell losing it. 3 starting offensive linemen? No, they didn't lose 3.
Well, Jacoby was like hurt like pretty much every other snap last year.
Right. But Lyndon Cooper, BJ Williams, and Ryan Baer played
pretty much the whole
all
season.
Year. So I wouldn't say they lost 3 starters. Now, what did happen is Branson Taylor got hurt and they just started shuffling guys around. They rolled a bunch of different left tackles in there. They moved Ryan Baer over, and then that jumbled up the right side. So, a bad situation got worse because they didn't have the depth, which we've talked about a million times. Adam Vinchik agrees with me about the 2 linebacker recruits, so much speed and athleticism. I think we all agree about that. We talked about it. I mean, I think the linebackers look really good in this class. Pitt beat WVU, says ESPN/On3 predicted Pitt to finish 12th. Hopefully we can do better than that, but at least we didn't get last place like West Virginia. LOL. I don't know. I don't even know if they're talking basketball or football, Jim. Do you? I don't know.
I mean, 12 honestly feels too high for basketball at this point. So
somebody just released like a tiers prediction. I forget I think it was here. I think it was on 247.
It was
and like it was in the basement. and I mean, they just made a great point. They're like, teams that have centers who don't shoot threes and point guards who don't shoot threes, usually tend to struggle, which makes a lot of sense. And they were like complimentary. They like praised the front court. They were like, Pitt might be one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the ACC this year. And I'm like, okay, I'll take your word for that. Like, I don't know if I agree with that, but at least it's something nice that you're saying. But that was about the extent of it. They weren't like rude about it, but yeah,
they're going to be picked in the bottom 2 or 3 this year. There's just no way around it.
I can't really like disagree with it, but anyway, let's say, hey, 10 commitments, Jim, 10 commitments. Woo. Let's see. Lasers, 10 commitments. Yeah, buddy. You can't double laser it this week. Josh Newark says, can you dumb down the House settlement, what it means for Pitt, and why I am hearing how some of the bigger schools like Penn State have already figured out ways to skirt it to their benefit? Dumb down the House settlement. 3 main things. Well, I mean, like, you don't need the background of where it came, House versus NCAA. It doesn't matter. 3 main things that it does. 1, creates a system of revenue sharing that will allow schools to share revenue with the student athletes. 22% of the top power conference schools will set the cap. Or 22% of the revenue of the top power conference schools will set the cap. It's expected to be at $20.5 million that you can share with student athletes. Part 2, they're going to pay sort of back pay to student athletes who played from 2016 to 2024. Everybody's going to chip into this. Everybody who's in the settlement agreement, all the schools are going to chip into the total of like $2.8 billion that's going to be paid out to former student athletes. Part 3, they're going to put in roster limits. It's going to replace scholarship limits. Everybody could be on scholarship if you want, but it's going to be a roster limit. So football have a roster limit of 105. Now, all 105 guys could be on scholarship. I don't think anybody's going to do that, but they could. Basketball, men's basketball, I assume women's basketball, I don't know if are they both going to be the same? Do you know?
I would imagine it's 15 for both.
Yeah. And then baseball is in the 30s, I want to say.
It's going from like 11.7 to like 34.
Right. And so those could all be full scholarships. And so they're instituting that. And so those are the 3 main things to know. Like if somebody asks you, like, what's all this House stuff about? It's about sharing revenue with student athletes with a salary cap and putting in roster limits. Those are the biggest things, the things that are most important. Some of the bigger schools have figured out ways to skirt it. Here's how you're going to skirt it. Okay. Because on the surface, you would say, oh, wow, this creates an even playing field. It's what they want in Major League Baseball, right? A salary cap. So nobody can pay like crazy amounts of money. They all can only pay the same amount. Here's how you get around it. You get around it with NILs and collectives and donations to the collectives, because that's still going to be a factor. It's still going to be a factor. Everybody can give out the $20.5 million, and almost all the Power 4 schools are going to give out the $20.5 million. Where you'll excel in retention, where you'll excel in getting guys out of the transfer portal and all of that is what you can do in NIL. It'll still be before everybody was here because they were giving no money and the NIL was up here, and that's what separated schools. Now everybody's up here with the 20.5 and the NIL is up here. It's still going to be that extra amount on top of what everybody else can give that'll set it apart. And so, I think there, when initially, Jim, when the House settlement was talked about, it was, well, that's the end of collectives. No, it's not the end of collectives. Now it's going to be a little trickier for them because they're doing this. Did you see? It's called like NIL Go.
It's like a clearinghouse type thing.
Yeah. But that's the name they came up with it, right? NIL Go. Was it like, didn't somebody, ESPN, was it ESPN Go for a while? Maybe when
Like the mobile
Disney
site?
first acquired. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, you might be right.
But I don't know what Go means, but I know that it's a clearinghouse. In theory, they're going to try and make these NIL deals actual NIL deals and not just like pay for play. We'll see if they're successful in doing that. But again, you can put together enough paperwork to make it look like whatever you want it to look like. So that's the way you're going to skirt it to your benefit. Everybody's going to give the revenue sharing. Everybody's going to give the 20.5. If you want to hold on to your players, if you want to get good players out of the portal, Jim, you got to get NIL money.
Yeah, it's still the name of the game. It is what it is. And as we know, I think Alliance 412, I think they released a statement, much like athletic departments, like, hey, we're still around. We still need money. Like, we still need donations. Like, this is still part of it. So we'll see how it goes. I'm interested to see if like some of the ridiculous like NIL deals, like if they kind of go away. Like I kind of remember like a few years ago, like the entire Texas Tech offensive line got like trucks, like just for no reason other than being a Texas Tech offensive lineman. I think that's what they want to get rid of. Like it's supposed to be like, oh, Kenny Pickett has a deal with the restaurant in Oakland and he gets to eat there and, gets a check. Like that's what it was supposed to be. Obviously it took about 2 months to, everyone realized like, oh, we could just pay these guys. So like NIL like started so innocent and it lasted for like 3 weeks. Then it just got so crazy.
I don't even know if it was innocent for that long, but the trucks, like at least the trucks, I mean, you can put those kids on a billboard. You can take a picture of them and hang it up. Like, I think what they want to cut down is just the straight cash. You know what I mean? Of like, here's a check. You are now, pick the name of a collective, you are now a Happy Valley Insider student athlete. You know what I mean? And that means you're part of the collective. So we get to pay you as part of the collective. And even though you're not doing anything for that money, I think they want to get rid of that. But even then, dude, seriously, all of these collectives just need a YouTube channel. Like, just need a YouTube channel. And you get all of your different student athletes and you just put them on the YouTube channel. You do a brief interview with them. You put their picture on your website, whatever it is. And now you're paying them for something. And it may not be the market value because, most people aren't getting paid $650,000 to do a YouTube interview, but now you're paying them to do something. And like, maybe the clearinghouse fights against that, but it's not that hard. It's not going to be that hard to get around it. And so all these collectives, like somebody asked on the board the other day, well, where should I donate now? Should I just donate to Pitt or should I still donate to the collective like I've been doing? And I mean, it's a choice that a lot of fans are going to have to make. And it's some of the bigger schools and, they have donors that can do both. But like Pitt set up the athletic directors fund last fall. It's discretionary fund, for the use of the athletic director. And it's ultimately going to go to revenue sharing. That's what it's for. And I think fans liked it because they could donate and it was tax deductible, whereas the collective donations are not. But the thing is, so you have to choose if you're a fan. Do you want to make the tax deductible donation to Pitt to help defer the cost of the revenue sharing, or do you want to donate to the collective to help get those NIL deals? The thing to keep in mind, aside from tax deductible status, is like if Pitt doesn't get $20.5 million in donations, which they won't, they can still find ways to make up that money.
Yeah.
If Alliance 412 only gets $250,000 in donations,
that's all they have.
That's it. Like, I like people at Pitt would probably be like, shut up, shut up, shut up. But like the reality is, like, your money's probably more needed on the collective side. And I'm not advocating one way or the other. I guess I just did. But like, like, I mean, you want the reality, like, where's your money more needed? I mean, it's on the NIL side, isn't it?
I agree. And like, maybe I'm naive and like, maybe this does level the playing field, just having revenue sharing. It might be easier to retain guys because they have a more steady income, paycheck, whatever it is. But like, whenever, Ohio State wants a quarterback, like they still have the means to go make that happen. And so, I mean, if Pitt wants to stay competitive in that race and in that space, like, yeah, like you probably should give some money to Alliance 412 because like that's where you fill in the gaps. Like they're getting this like solid baseline of a paycheck, and I don't know how they're going to do it. Like, do starters make more? Does Kyle Lewis make more because he's very notable? I don't know how it all works. I mean, it's still still very new. It's only like a week old since this whole thing got started. So I don't know. I maybe I'm naive in thinking that it's going to help level the playing field, and it'll probably come crashing down on my face.
I mean, like, I think maybe to some extent, I think it could give guys a little bit more to think about, but if there's a quarterback and it's like, well, I'm getting $400,000 from Pitt's rev share, I can go to Ohio State and get $500,000 from their rev share plus $1 million on top, So I'm going to get 1.5, or at Pitt, I'm going to get 400,000 in the rev share plus 300,000 from NIL, or even, 800,000 from NIL. Like, I'm going to get over $1 million here, but I could go to Ohio State and get 1.5 or 1.6. Like, there's still maybe the money you get from the rev share is enough. Like, kind of like what you were saying. It's like, well, you're not going from, it's not 0 versus 1 million. You know what I mean? It's 500,000 versus 1 million. So maybe it helps, but I don't know. It depends on how this all ends up going. Let's see. Scrolling through because we got about 10 minutes. Josh Newick says, did I hear correctly from the director of athletics, Alan Green, that we should be supporting the Panther Club again? I mean, I think Pitt wants you to donate wherever you can. They have this athletic directors fund that I think is probably the preferred choice, because I don't think that money is like really earmarked for anything, Jim. I think like
it's Alan Green's discretion.
He can do whatever he wants, right? Which means it's going to go to
the football and basketball team,
and revenue sharing. Let's see. All right, I'm just going to read a few of these. Joey Dealey says, I've been wondering why people criticize Pitt for not going after the WPIAL, but I bet they go after all the top WPIAL players. A lot of them don't look at Pitt. There's truth to that. I did some research a little while back of like how many guys, WPIAL guys, took official visits to Pitt when they weren't already committed to Pitt. Like last year, Shep Turk took an official visit, but he was already committed. Julian Duggar, I think, was committed before he took his official visit. And there's only been 9 WPIAL prospects who took official visits to Pitt in the last 10 years when they weren't already committed to Pitt. You know what I'm saying? Like, so DeMar Hamlin took his official visit before he committed. Dayon Hayes, Braylon Lovelace, Cruz Brookins, Cam Lindsey, and then 4 guys. There are 4 guys who took 4 local players who took official visits to Pitt and committed elsewhere. And it's a fun little trivia question I'll ask you. I'll give you a second to see if you can think of all 4 of them. But what that says to me is, like, not only was Pitt not getting WPIAL recruits, like, they're not even getting guys to take a look at them. They're not even taking official visits. They've offered a lot of guys. They've tried to get a lot of guys from the WPIAL. But even, like, you think about all the guys who left, all the guys they didn't get, Lamont Wade and CJ Thorpe and Donovan Jeter and all these guys, there are only 4 who left the area who actually took an official visit to Pitt. So dudes are just not even looking. All right, I gave you a second. Can you name the 4?
What are the parameters again?
4 WPIAL or City League recruits who took official visits to Pitt and signed to a different school, left the area to go to college.
I can't think of his name. He's a skinny defensive end from the City League, went to Kentucky.
Right. Yeah, class 2022. Tyrese Fearbury.
Okay.
He was the most recent one. There haven't been any since then. There was one in the class of 2020, one in the class of 2019, one in the class of 2016.
16 was that was like DeMar's year. Did they get Miles Sanders to come to a visit?
Nope.
No. The good linebacker that went to Michigan. What's
from
his
McKeesport?
They never get
Khalik Hudson.
Yeah, they never get McKeesport.
They at least got an official visit out of it.
Yeah, that's saying a lot. The 2020, I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't think you'd remember him. Josh Rawlings, the tight end, Woodland Hills, went to Virginia.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't expect that name to come to mind. The other one, though, you're going to be like, oh, damn, how did I forget him?
What class was this?
2019. It was a February commitment. Took his official visit probably in like January or December or something.
Oh, MJ.
Like that. Yes, MJ Devonshire. That's right. But those are the only 4 guys over the course of 10 years And I mean, actually, it's 9 recruiting classes because nobody took official visits in the 2021 class because the COVID dead period. But like, again, it just says that like guys just aren't even taking a look. And I think that's what was so big about getting Colson Gatton down there for the visit, or getting Reston Lehman to come in is because, you thought, well, I don't know if they're going to go to Pitt or not, but at least they're taking a look. At least they're taking an official visit. It's a free trip. And I know it's to some place you've already been a bunch of times, but who knows, you might actually enjoy it. And just guys were not even coming in. All right. Let's get a few more. Swim Boyd says, any thoughts on why this official visit weekend was so successful compared to other years? I mean, I think there's a few reasons, but one thing to keep in mind, I mean, they got 10 commitments this weekend. Last year, they had 3 big June official visit weekends. They got 5 the first week, 5 the second, and 7 the third week. So they got 17 commitments in the month. So here, Pitt got 10 commitments over the course of, in one weekend. But like last year, I mean, if at the end of June you end up with 17 commitments out of the month, you still had a really successful month. I think it's just, sometimes it's just how it works out, having the right guys in the right place. So they haven't had any other weekends other than that very first one back in June 2018, where they got this many guys in one weekend. But they've had sort of successful Junes for a while. You know what I mean? I don't know. Is there anything that stands out about this weekend, Jim?
Yeah, nothing like it's kind of what they always do. I mean, like they always have these big weekends, and I think it was just the volume. I mean, like 22 seems like a big, at least total number of visitors. Like I don't know if they always go that high. I think last year, I mean, they got all those commitments, but I think only like 32 guys took official visits last year. I mean, I think it was a smaller number, and I remember commenting about that. So I don't know. I think they just cast a wide net. They brought their 5 commits there to help them. Once one got going, and so I don't know. I think a lot of those guys they had a good feeling about, and that's why they brought them the first weekend. They're like, because oh, this guy's going to commit, so he might just follow along. And I think that's just kind of what happened. So I don't know. I mean, I think I would just say volume as compared to other years, because 22 is just a lot of people to have on campus, and it just kind of went crazy.
Didn't they bring like 30 one time? Don't you remember one that like was really ridiculous? It was like, are you serious? You have 30 guys on campus? I feel like they got more than this. I don't think 22 was the biggest one. I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah, I'd have to dig through the archives on that one.
Pitt beat WVU, said that Pitt was picked 12th. He was talking about football. I don't think Pitt's going to finish 12th in football. I don't think they're going to win the league. I don't think they're going to go to the ACC championship game. I think they'll be pretty decent though. Like Eli Holstein's back. Second year in the offense, more depth on the offensive line. I think the defensive line will be better. I think the linebackers will be even better than they were a year ago. I think the secondary will be fine. Like, I don't think this team should be like 5-7 or something like that. No. Like 4-8.
I agree. I look at the other teams in the ACC, and I just look at just kind of the body of work of like what Pat Narduzzi has done over the past decade. Like I don't see like a world wherever like Virginia and Duke and Virginia Tech and Georgia Tech are just going to all of a sudden be better than Pitt this year. Like it hasn't happened over the past decade. I don't know why this year is going to be any different, especially when they have 2 All-Americans back. I mean, how many other of those schools can say that? I would say probably 0. So yeah. Pitt has better players than them. They have a better track record, a more established program. So I would say a lot of those like middle of the pack ACC schools, Pitt will be ahead at the end of the year.
Yeah. And partially, I mean, we've talked about this before. It's really easy to talk yourself into Pitt winning like 9 games last year without like stretching your imagination or stretching reason or logic too far. It's easy to talk yourself into 9 regular season wins. So you return the bulk of that team. Like you have some losses, some notable losses, but nothing that should, shoot them down to the bottom third of the conference. Voodoo IPA says, how in the world did South Oakland for Life omit Schlotsky's Deli today? Did you see the South Oakland for Life? You have $15 to build your ideal Oakland forgotten places. Did you see that?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of those places, like I did not even know, or they predate me, and so I wasn't able to build the perfect Oakland because I didn't experience a lot of those places.
Yeah, it was hard. I'm not going to bring it up now because we could spend a lot of time. We wasted time on the basketball one last week doing that. It was hard, but all the bars, I didn't like any of the bars that they listed. Like the bars I liked that are not there anymore weren't even on the list. So I was kind of like, I don't want any of these bars. I'd rather pick 2 restaurants that I liked. I'd rather pick Fuel and Fuddle and Mad Mex rather than one of those restaurants and a bar. So I disagree with how it was put together.
Fuel
but
and Fuddle was on there.
It was. What I'm saying is like it told you to pick a bar, a restaurant, a store, a takeout, and a nightclub or something. And I was like, well, I don't want any of the bars. Just give me 2 of the restaurants. And anyway, Mad Max had a great bar and Fuel and Fuddle had a great bar. Mad Max had a half off happy hour, half off all drafts, and you could eat free chips and salsa at the bar. I mean, like it was.
Yeah, you can't beat that.
Like I don't need to go to Peter's Pub or some of these other dumb places that were never that much fun. Anyway, getting distracted. See, I said I didn't want to get into that, but all right. That's it. It's 9:30. I appreciate everybody who tuned in tonight to get a special Tuesday night live show. Jim, I appreciate you adjusting your schedule. It's always fun to do these, no matter what day we do them, but everybody make sure you like this video and subscribe to youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. We're going to talk about the House settlement on tomorrow's morning Pitt. So that's riveting stuff for sure. I'm sure Pitt tough guy who jumped in with a comment late in the session will have some thoughts on that. But make sure you check that out tomorrow morning, and then of course stay tuned to the website for all the recruiting content heading into the next big official visit weekend. Panther-Lair.com. All right, like and subscribe, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Everybody have a good rest of the week, and we will catch up with you tomorrow on the morning Pit right here, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.